The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
So the first night we got here, my wife and kids and I, and we're moving in to get set up. It's hard to make dinner. So we quickly ran over to the Chinese restaurant over here, right? It's good for kids and whatever. So we took them there, got a round table, sat down, and we're going to eat. We're going to try to eat some whatever, what do you call it, sweet and sour chicken or whatever, make it through it. And that'll be dinner for Thursday night. As we're sitting there, we see a humongous long table. And then looks like a whole share of berachot, like 30 seats. And then we see an older man and older woman come. And then we see other people come. And then we realize for a second, my wife and I, 1 second, we know that man. He lives 4 doors down from us in Brooklyn. Ashkenazi man from Brooklyn. Come here. We said, 1 second, what's going on over here? After a little while, we realized this man, husband and wife, have 16 children, 12 of which are already married. So that table, that Sheva Berachot, was just him, his wife, and his married kids and his children. What are they here to celebrate? Turns out that this man 10 years ago had issues with his lungs. He was almost dead. And he was pretty much decided he only has a couple of days left. And Hashem somehow made him live. And this is 10 years later, his 10-year celebration. He had all his kids together, just his children, none of his grandchildren, to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of him getting his life back. So he got up, if you could imagine, naturally. At this point, I'm totally focused on his table. I don't even know where my kids are. I'm just looking at his table. And he gets up to speak. And he's an older man. He gets up to speak and he starts to talk about that surgery. And he says, the doctors didn't want to do the surgery. He says, I remember hearing mommy speak to one of the great rabbis, telling him he only has a few days left to live. He says, and the doctors knew because my lung was gone. It was horrible. In fact, he says, once I did manage, well, I'll tell you that in a minute. He says, and then there's a doctor who could perform the surgery. And another doctor goes over to the surgeon and says, you have to do the surgery. He says, I'm not doing it. He says, why are you not doing it? He says, I'm not doing it because I never, ever lost a patient on the operating table. And this man has very little chance to live. So I'm not doing the surgery because I don't want to lose a patient. I don't want this to be the first one that goes down under my watch. So I'm not doing the surgery. The other doctor turns to me and says, looks at him in the eyes. He says, 1 second. There's 16 children out there waiting for this man to live. And you're not going to perform the surgery? The doctor stood there 3 minutes. He says, you know what? Roll him in. I'll do it. And he did the surgery, replaced his lung. I don't know what he did. And somehow the man lived. And finally, when he woke up a few days later, weeks later, he told the doctor, he says, doctor, I want to thank you from the bottom of my lung. And he lived. And now you see him stand up and start to read little letters from the grandchildren on colored paper. And one grandchild says, Zadie, which means Grandpa, I'm so thankful that you're alive. And he comments, so am I. And you see a person and you see a doctor who goes the difference between having one vision or the other vision. The one vision says, I have statistics I have to hold up. I have to make sure that everybody knows that I never lost a patient because my job is me right now, how it makes me look and the credentials and the pictures and the plaques that are on the walls of my office. And then there's someone who snaps him into reality. He says, 1 second, you have the skills. This is what you're here to do. There's the need. The person is right here in front of you. You can accomplish something so much more powerful than a statistic. You can save a man for all his children and grandchildren. How do you live?
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org